Wisdom of a Sage by Tresvan, folks. Sage, a profoundly wise, virtuous, and venerable person of sound judgment. This is a handbook containing information that, if studied, will turn into knowledge, and if that knowledge is applied, it will turn into wisdom. Wisdom itself joins humans when humans join forces with nature. Joining forces with nature is the application of knowledge. What is nature? A physical manifestation of the Creator. So by joining forces with nature, you are becoming one with the Creator. This is the beginning to the path of a sage. For even the ancient Cometians understood the importance of divine wisdom through the goddess Aset. Aset, who represented divine wisdom, could never be fooled by Set, who represented the lower self, as she was devoted to the unveiling of the sun god Ra's relative form. Due to her persistence in learning the knowledge of the world, she was able to stop Ra on his travels, and he was forced to give her his absolute name. This stoppage was caused by her serpent-biting Ra, which was symbolic to the power of wisdom and inquiry into finding out who we really are. She was no longer deluded by the relative aspect of the world and its illusions, which are all enemies to the soul. Ra could not withstand Aset's probing, so nature began to show its true essence, and Ra allowed himself to be discovered by Aset. This discovery provided knowledge of the divine creator to Aset, which cannot be conceptualized by words or thoughts. The information was transmitted from Ra's heart to Aset's heart rather than from mouth to ear, which symbolically meant becoming one with the Creator's heart. This was a summary explaining the path of wisdom from the ancient Cometians, and when you become persistent on that path, just like Aset, the veil of illusion that the physical world brings can never delude you. For sure, you will overstand the keys required for a prosperous life. For sure, you will acquire the necessary knowledge that will build you, protect you, and bring you closer to who you really are. For sure, a sage you will become. Chapter 1. Gaining Wisdom. Retaining information and applying knowledge. The mind must be stretched, just like the body. As above, so below. When the body is stretched, there are two outcomes. The first is to become flexible, to reach areas of the body one could not reach. The second is to prevent injury. When stretching of the body is practiced, the onset of injury is reduced. This same concept must be applied to the mind. When we stretch the mind and welcome the idea of new information, we are able to reach realms of thought that were not possible to prior. Secondly, we prevent ourselves from being hurt by opposing information that may be a challenge to our existing paradigms. One must stretch the mind to new realms of thought, just as you would do the body for these two reasons. As above, so below, as within, so without. A sage allows their life to be led by truth, so the truth will always defend them. Be like the sage and be mindful of what you say. Be cautious with your words and refrain from hastiness or irrational speech. Better to trip with your feet than trip with your tongue. For your words are your sword, and the sage knows that they cannot use a sword recklessly, for the same principle must apply to one's words. A rule of the wise is to cut one's words in half when speaking. Learn to discern what deserves your input and what deserves your silence. For silence can be of great profit, while an abundance of speech is not. The more you are silent, the more you will be able to hear. Like the sage, you must fill your mind before emptying your mouth, as even the fool who keeps silent is considered wise. Always remember that the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding, so the teacher will only show up when the student is ready. If you are always speaking, when will you have time to decide to become wise? Everything you say should be true, but not everything that is true should be said. The sage is aware of this. Although your voice may not always be required, ensure when it is. The truth is what comes out of your mouth. When you speak in truth, eventually you will find your real tribe, because the more you speak in truth, the more truth will permeate into your life. Practice the delivery of your speech, for this will determine whether what you say will be accepted by the hearts of others. For two people can have the same idea, but project it in two different ways, yet only one is accepted. The intelligence of others is not the same as yours, and the intelligence of yours is not the same as others. So the words that come out of your mouth will not be comprehended with the same coherence by everyone. This is why the sage not only knows which seeds they can pour water on, but also how much water to give, as not all seeds are viable. With that being said, refrain from debating with those who lack spiritual sensitivity, as this will weaken the mind. The sage knows not to lay their pearls before swine, as this is the act of someone who lacks wisdom. Spread your teachings of wisdom to those who are keen and hungry for knowledge. This will help you both have a better frame of mind. What must you do with everyone else? Simple. Allow for the universe to teach them. The universe knows best, so do not speak to be heard by the ignorant, for they will despise the wisest advice. Trust in the universe, for the universe knows more than you and I. Learn to sublimate the ego, as it cannot be eradicated. The ego is like a child that wants to play. You cannot stop them from wanting to play, but you can control what it plays with. The ego is governed by an endless pit of desire, and if desires have control over your life, then you are a slave to your desires. These desires come in the form of emotions, feelings, and passions, and whilst they are good servants, they are poor masters. Allow your mind to be like the sky with passing clouds. They create different developments in the sky, but do not affect the sky, so too you should be unaffected by the desires that enter the mind. A sage seeks clarity, although is content with the unknown. In clarity, there is truth. The more clarity you have over something, the closer you come towards truth, and the further away you go from deception. You only move on to the next level of a game when you complete the previous one, and you can only complete it once you know how to. You have gained clarity, and now you are able to proceed to the next level. The pursuit of knowledge and the application of knowledge, wisdom, are what bring clarity in the life of a sage, and in clarity there is truth. At the same time, you must know in your heart what your intentions are, because it is the heart that gets judged. The heart must be pure, and the best way to cleanse the heart is to engage in selfless service to humanity. Refrain from having hatred in your heart for any person, as that is like drinking poison and waiting for them to die. The heart must be as light as a feather and not heavy, as this will lead to a haughty spirit. Do not allow praise to get to your head, and insults to get to your heart. When you have a healthy heart, you will have a healthy mind, and when you have a healthy mind, you will have a healthy body. As within, so without. Focus on the judgment between you and the Creator, the judgment of self. Refrain from all other types of judgment, as you don't want to be a good judge of others and a poor judge of self. This would be like holding the flaws of others before your eyes while turning your back toward your own. The ability to observe without judgment is one of the highest forms of intelligence. Allow the Creator to be the judge. As the Creator is in all things, so can see all things and won't miss a thing. Do not be hasty or quick to judge, for you will close the case on the subject at hand. Every time you make a judgment, a case closes, just like in the court, and now no more learning takes place. Why restrict your learning in a universe filled with infinite amounts of information? The key is to minimize one's judgments, as the more judgments you make, the more cases you close. The more cases you close, the more you minimize your ability to learn and become wise, which is not sage-like. Instead, be the person who inquires, the one who is the asker of questions. It may frustrate those of impatience, as they will be the ones to judge your intelligence, but let them, that is fine. Often, people who are askers of questions are not necessarily liked, but these are the people who are of higher intelligence. They question everything they are taught, while the fool is always certain. Don't let the judgments of others prohibit you from being the asker of questions, for it is better to be a fool for a minute than a fool for eternity. For you should only compete with yourself, and you will become better. Compete with others, and you will become bitter. You may want to change the world, which, if it's for the better, is an act of nobility. But how so, if one does not change themselves? The sage knows that by the changing of self will eventually lead to the changing of the world around them, because all that is external comes from what is internal. Wanting to change the world makes you intelligent, but wanting to change self makes you wise. This is the type of knowledge one must have. With that being said, knowledge without action is like hoarding precious metals, a vain and foolish thing. Moving oneself towards better is always a wise decision, as the principle of vibration states that nothing rests, everything moves, and everything vibrates. So you must move towards the right path, or the wrong path will move towards you. The right path is the righteous path. In order to be on the right path, you need to have the wisdom to know it, but in order to have wisdom, you must be on the right path. This is duality, order, and wisdom. You must have both and fuse the two together, just like the Creator, and be one with the Creator. As above, so below. How much information you are able to accumulate will determine how much knowledge you will have, and how much knowledge you are able to apply will determine how much wisdom you have. For knowledge is the accumulation of information, and wisdom is the application of knowledge. The sage has knowledge, as they are not just a holder of information. The sage's knowledge brings them wisdom. The sage's wisdom brings them freedom, and this freedom brings them peace and enlightenment. It is the lack of knowledge that brings about fear. With fear comes conformity, and from conformity comes manipulation. How could such a pathway be so beautiful yet so damaging when led the other way? Align yourself with the Creator, like the sage, and you will be an open portal to divine wisdom teachings. This will certainly bring you onto the right path. Refrain from being a holder of information, as this is the fate of many, as they believe they are the source of it. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, then information itself can only be transferred, not created by you and I. The sage knows that they are not the source of knowledge, but instead the divine source is, and they align themselves with the divine source to receive even more. The person who believes they are the holder of information separates themselves from the divine source, fueling ignorance and an absence of wisdom. Be open to the teachings of the Creator. Do not be narrow-minded, for a singular point of view does not represent totality. You have to be able to interpret information from multiple angles, as this is the height of intelligence. The person who is able to interpret information from multiple angles is displaying the qualities of an angel. What is an angel? A spiritual being superior to humans in power and intelligence. This is why the sage is like an open portal to the teachings of the universe, as the one who restricts themselves to limited angles of information is the only one being spited. When the 2D square transcends to the 3D square, it goes from 4 angles to 24 angles. You must also transcend in your knowledge by increasing your ability to interpret information from multiple angles. Do this, and you will become superior like an angel. The sage purifies themselves by eliminating the contaminants that prohibit their ascension. Much like the process of purifying water, this is most pleasing to the Creator. These are the sacrifices one must make to show their devotion to the Creator by eliminating that which no longer serves them, the impurities. This is one of the laws of the divine, as for you and I came from someone who had to sacrifice their life in order to conceive us. Nothing that is great can be easily obtained, and one must sacrifice something in order to attain it. For even the pursuit of wisdom will require previous patterns of thinking to be vanquished. This is the process of giving in order to receive. Give freely and receive even more. Withhold what you should give, and you'll find yourself in poverty. Give up what no longer serves you, as you are also giving up what no longer serves the Creator. Live in harmony with the Creator by sustaining and elevating creation. All of the elements of nature work by sustaining and elevating the planet. By sustaining and elevating the planet will sustain and elevate you. As above, so below. Be mindful, not mindless. Be watchful. For the one who is watchful, there can be no surprise. Be still, be silent, listen and observe, for you have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and only 1 mouth. Most of us speak and tell the universe what it is we want, the ego, instead of listening to what the universe wants for us, the soul. The kingdom of God dwells within, so we must be still and silent and listen to what our inner God wants from within. If the Creator is all-knowing, then the Creator does not need to listen to you and me. It is we who must listen to the Creator's messages that reside within. Everything seen comes from the unseen, even you and I. We were once an unseen part of creation before we became physically seen. For science is seen spirituality, and spirituality is unseen science. One of the keys to understanding the universe is through signs, symbols, frequency, and energy. This is a language that, when understood, will lift the veil of illusion, and you will no longer be deceived by the deceptions that are placed in front of you. Go beyond the words that are conveyed by others, as the universe does not speak a modern language. There are unseen forces that control all that is seen, and when you are able to be in tune and learn how to trust and utilize these forces, you will no longer be fooled by that which is seen, as you are now one with the unseen. With that being said, the physical is just a manifestation of the mental. When you can transcend something mentally, you transcend it physically. This goes for people as well as situations. For your enemies only exist in your mind. Hence, they manifest themselves physically. Once you master the ability to transcend people, places, and things mentally, enemies will cease to exist physically. All enemies to the soul do not have to be responded to on the physical plane once you are able to eliminate them on the mental plane. Even if these people, which in hindsight are only obstacles, appear to be stronger than you physically, this has no bearing mentally. As above, so below. They cannot reach you physically once they are not able to reach you mentally. There are 4 aspects of the personality that require perfection to become like the sage. These are emotion, reason, action, and will. If you become in tune with your emotions, then your ability to reason and make decisions despite adversity will not be affected. If your ability to reason is not affected, then you won't perform actions that may destroy your character. If you can control your actions, then you will have strong will. How does the sage develop these traits? For emotion, the sage practices devotional love towards the divine source. For reason, the sage develops their wisdom. For action, the sage engages in selfless service and righteousness. For will, the sage masters their self-control. With these traits, you will build yourself with the character of a sage. This is what you want to be. Character over reputation, as your character is what you are, whereas your reputation is what others think you are. And remember, learning has no weaknesses, only positives, as it is the only thing the mind never fears and never forgets. Chapter 2. The Analogies of Wisdom. The human and the animal are both expressions of the Creator. Both are blessed with the gift of instinct, making them very similar in nature. The animal appears to have better instincts, but this is because they abide by the laws of nature and do not stray off course due to a lack of free will. The human has been given free will, which can be one's superpower, or one's kryptonite. Why? Because free will mixed with instinct equals intuition, and when one lives in tune with and abides by the laws of nature, their intuition becomes more prominent and easier to follow. The cat has the traits of agility, fierceness, poise, strength, and determination, which are all important in sublimating the serpent in us all. What is the serpent in us? The negative aspects of the mind. To be a sage, one must become like the cat by closely observing it and adopting its traits. This is significant on the path to obtaining wisdom. Otherwise, the negative aspects of the mind will become magnified. The serpent in us all will always try to look for opportunities to bite us, which is why you must be like the cat and utilize your agility to evade such attacks or your strength to overcome it. Be like the falcon, for it is the fastest creature on earth. When the storm commences, all creatures look for shelter, whereas the falcon has the ability to fly above it. Be like the falcon, for the storm is the symbol of adversity, and you must be able to raise yourself above it so that it does not destroy you. The falcon is able to see 2 miles ahead of wherever it is, which is supreme vision. It can see danger before danger can even see them. You must also adopt this ability in order to avoid the pitfalls that are awaiting you. With that being said, the eyes are useless if the mind is blind, and the mind of the falcon is brilliant, making its senses powerful. It can judge light refraction and swoop in the water without being affected in order to catch its prey. This is the personification of sound judgment and decision-making. So be like the falcon so that the mind will be steady and the senses will not disappoint. Your environment can make or break you, so alter it in your favor as much as possible. Although we cannot always control all of the factors in our environments, we can choose where we direct our energy and who has access to it. This is good enough. The true sage can often be found alone because the sage knows that no company is better than bad company. For the crabs in the sea help one another so that each one can get food. The crabs in a barrel, however, use one another to get themselves out without helping the rest. Same animal, different environment, which equals a different result. Do not allow your environment to become your cage. Allow your mind to be free and open to correction, open to new trains of thought. When the mind is caged, the body will follow. As within, so without. As wise as the sage is, in all honesty, the sage knows very little because only the fool knows everything. Many paths of life will convince your mind to be very closed, very rigid, and very suppressed. This is very much in opposition to the path of the sage and will lead you to become like a flea in a jar. When the flea is kept in the jar for long enough, a jar is no longer needed to keep it imprisoned, as it has been successfully conditioned to its new parameters. When the mind of the individual has been closed long enough, it will also become conditioned to its new mental parameters. Allow the mind to be free and open to correction, but closed to coercion. When you're elevating in wisdom, the minds of those in your environment may not be able to fathom knowledge at the heights you are able to. What does this lead to? Coercion. Being brought back to a level that they are able to compete with you at. When the alligator finds prey on the land, it doesn't kill them. Instead, it drags them into the waters, then kills them. Why is this? Because the water is where they thrive, and not the place where their prey thrives, so the alligator will have the advantage. This is how the minds of those that reside on lower levels of consciousness work. They are not able to compete with or manipulate the sage at the sage's level, so instead they have to try to bring the sage to a state, environment, that is more suited to them. The sage has enough wisdom to know this, so does not become a victim to it, and you must do the same. Sometimes your environment begs of you to fight the battle, to fight fire with fire. This is not always the wisest option. The sage is like a warrior in a garden, so they do their ultimate best to avoid the battle. It requires sheer discipline and self-control, as the ego in many is very large and cannot handle confrontation or humiliation. The sage is free from these states of being, so is always able to avoid the battle unless it is unsafe to do so. Just like in chess, when your king is in check, you do not always have to attack your opponent's piece that has caused this. In some circumstances, you can simply move your king out of the way and avoid it. Not every battle is worth your energy to fight, as they can end up doing you more harm than good. Ever heard of the snake that tried to attack the saw? The saw cut the snake on its path, and the snake decided to wrap itself around the saw in an attempt to constrict it. The more it was constricting the saw, the more it was getting cut by the saw, which resulted in the snake dying from too much blood loss. The sage knows that not every battle is worth the fight, as the consequences can be far worse than the gains. Adopt this style, for this is the art of wisdom. Have the tools to defend, but have the foresight to avoid. They will say this is not the way to be, this is wrong, this is not normal. You will say that normal is an illusion, for what is normal to the spider is chaos to the fly. You should eat wisdom for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is the only thing you should never be full from. Don't be like the fool, for the fool feeds on trash and then wonders why they are sick after. Be like the caterpillar instead, as they eat the correct food so that when they are in their cocoon, they are then able to become a liberated butterfly. The sage feeds on constant wisdom, which allows them to also become liberated like the beautiful butterfly, and that is the fate of the one who decides to do the same. The sage does not hold on to worries, fears, and infringements, as these contaminate the mind and heart. Many hold on to these things and allow their hearts to be heavy, when the aim of the sage is to make the heart as light as a feather. This is also why the sage avoids the battle, as this is a catalyst for the contamination of the mind and heart. Holding on to such forms of energy is like holding on to a cup of water. While it is fine initially, if you hold on to the cup of water for too long, it becomes more and more heavy. How could something that weighs next to nothing become so heavy after a long period of time? This is what these things do to the minds and hearts of those that choose to hold on. To become like the sage is not easy and requires dedication to wisdom, dedication to growth, and removing the patterns of thought that no longer serve you. Easier said than done, as our actions become embedded in us due to our patterns of thinking given to us by our environmental programs. As the sage connects themselves to the Creator and furthers along the path of wisdom, they are able to remove the layers of ignorance that inhibit their growth. It is not easy because it is uncomfortable, like the process of peeling an onion. When the layers of an onion are being peeled, this causes discomfort, but ultimately leads to the reward of fulfillment to the body. When you remove the layers of ignorance, it will be an uncomfortable experience at first, but ultimately will bring fulfillment to the soul. Better to be the cause of this uncomfortable experience than to let it be caused by others. This will keep you centered and help you find yourself within. Better to find oneself within than to be left without. I ask you this: is life born from the egg when it is broken from the inside or from the outside? All is within, and this is why the sage does not allow themselves to be contaminated from within. They avoid the battle, as this can lead to contamination. They follow the path of wisdom because this brings fulfillment to the soul which is within. The soul becomes what the thoughts are within, just like the body becomes what the foods are within. If it is fruit that you eat, then this will be replenishing to the body. However, one must never forget that it is the fruit that is the last to grow on the tree that bears it. We can all recall when the fruit arrived, but struggle to remember the journey the tree took to reach admiration. This can be the fate of humans, which has led many to stop at the final stages in the past. How tragic would it be to realize you were so close to the bearing of your fruit on the journey, but you stopped because you didn't see it? Don't suffer from this fate. Instead, appreciate the journey, for the stonecutter appreciates theirs. They hammer away at the rock 99 times, and nothing happens. But then, on the 100th time, it splits into two. It wasn't the 100th blow that caused this outcome. It was the 99 attempts prior that appeared to have no significance to the eye. The mind must not be fooled, even if the eyes appear to be. This is why the sage is persistent in their quest for greatness. The eyes are useless when the mind is blind. Sometimes the eyes can be deceived by what is in front of them, but if the mind is also deceived, then this is a concern. Be mindful of the mind, and don't allow it to fall for the illusions being presented to the eyes. What could appear to be desirable could just be superficial, and what could appear to be lackluster could very well be that with meaning. The new sharp pencil is much more appealing than the blunt one, but I ask you this: which one has done more work? Learn from the tree. The tree is wisdom, and teaches wisdom. It teaches wisdom in plain sight, yet it is hard for many to see. It grows to ridiculous heights right in front of our eyes, yet we don't see its growth. It remains still and is not easily moved despite adverse weather conditions. It gives selfless service to humanity by providing oxygen, which is the source of life for man and woman, yet asks for nothing in return. It is able to convert adversity into prosperity by taking in the waste compound of humanity, CO2, and convert it into a carbohydrate that enables growth. Then, after all of the adversity it takes in, it still provides fruit for those to obtain. You too must grow, whether or not others are there to see, as the Creator will, just like the tree. You too must not be easily moved by the words and actions of others, just like the tree. You too must offer selfless service to humanity, as those that give freely receive even more, just like the tree. You too must make the adversities be a catalyst for your prosperities, just like the tree. Do these things, and just like the tree, you will be. The tree is only as strong as its roots, so the tree can only grow to heaven if its roots are able to reach down to hell. As above, so below. Whilst many want one and not the other, the sage embraces both and becomes whole. These are the qualities the sage possesses: the ability to embrace the duality that life brings. The sage strives for quality, for even the words they utter are of quality. They do not raise their voice, but instead raise the quality of their words, as it is rain that helps flowers grow, not thunder. The sage is like the moon, as they have gone through many phases throughout their lives just like everyone else, but they strive to be like the sun. No matter how many times the sun goes down, it will always rise once again. Learn from the sun, for the sun is also a source of wisdom. The sun gives freely, as it gives its rays of light to us all without asking whether or not we deserve its warmth. Wisdom comes to those who give freely, and to those who don't demand others give to them first. It is only those who withhold what they should give who reach poverty in spirit. The sage is the one who gives freely and receives even more. To overstand nature is to overstand self, and one cannot overstand self if they do not overstand nature and how nature works. As within, so without. Resentment is not in the character of a sage, nor is ignorance. The sage is open to interpretation and open to instruction because the sage is open-minded. Only a fool knows everything. The sage remains open like the umbrella or the parachute, rather, as they are of most use when they are in this state. Be open with your mind and precise with your words, for what you say is in conjunction with what you think. The sage is much like the traffic light with their words. They know when they must initiate silence by refraining from speech, and instead observe just like when the light goes red. They also know when to give their input and allow their words to flow, just like when the light goes green. If the lights are always red, there will be traffic jams, which is a polluted mind, and if the lights are always green, there will be too much flow of traffic, resulting in crashes of the mind with the minds of others. Becoming like the sage is knowing when to utilize your red light, and when to utilize your green. For the path of a sage is a long journey, but as you walk the way appears. The way is similar to that of a map. You know where you are and you know where you want to be, but not so much aware of how the pathway to the destination will look. The more you continue on the journey, the more the path to the destination will be revealed. This is the beauty of the map, as it replicates the journey of becoming a sage. The sage is comfortable with the unknown because as the sage walks the way will be revealed. The sage is comfortable knowing that there will be red lights along the way, blocked roads, hazards, and more, but is trusting in the Creator that the way will be revealed after all. All the map requires of you is that you know the next direction, the next step, and the way will be revealed more and more as you follow. You just have to be comfortable with the unknown elements of the way and the obstructions, for they determine whether or not you really want to reach the destination. With that being said, it takes time to become like the sage. Wisdom does not get acquired overnight, so do not be in a rush to achieve it. Nature never hurries, yet everything is accomplished. The sage has no desire to be seen, despite all the wisdom they have acquired. It is the need to be seen that clogs up the minds and hearts of many. The need to be seen and the focus on the parts of ourselves that are seen are what are focused on when the universe itself is controlled by forces that are unseen. The seen parts of our own body are controlled by unseen parts of ourselves. The heart is unseen and the mind is unseen. They both control all that we do, yet we focus more on the outside of our vessels. The sun and trees control our ability to live on the planet, yet we can go days without thinking about them. They are, in essence, unseen. It is the unseen that controls the seen, so one should be focused on the unseen part of themselves more than the seen. This trains the mind to focus on that which you are over that which you are not. Everything you do and say should not be done because of the need to be seen, as everything you do and say will always be seen by the Creator, even if it is unseen by others. Less focus on the need to be seen, and more focus on the connection you have with Source, the Creator, the Most High. This connection surpasses all other connections, for this is the true connection to self. This is how you find yourself within. People want to find themselves externally, and look all over the world only to find that all was within if they had just connected to Source. We search everywhere when the very mobile devices we use every day are showing us how to operate as they are based upon the anatomy of the human. Oh, how much do we all love the mobile devices that we use, but this goes over the heads of many, as we love them so much because they have been assembled with the properties of man. When too much energy is being used, it requires rest to charge back up. When the storage is full, it requires a reboot or the deletion of that which no longer serves it. It receives downloads and updates that make it better and more efficient. It wears cases to protect it from damage and keep it safe. However, damage to the hardware, the outside, is not as detrimental as if there were damage to its software, the inside, like a virus. But most importantly, The mobile devices we use can search for anything and find the answer to whatever they desire within themselves, as long as they have an internet connection. Without this connection to a source, the search cannot even begin. Chapter 3. Energy Control. Energy forms into matter, so if you do not give something your energy, it won't matter. Oh yes, energy is the source of the universe, as without it there is no matter, no life. For your energy is your power, so you must use it to your benefit, and treat it as you would gold. All matter is the arrangement of energy for the mind, and thoughts are energy. Anything to which your attention is given to becomes real, which is matter. So if all matter is the concentration of energy, and the thoughts are energy, then the concentration of your thoughts should be spent on that which you desire. The sage doesn't waste time spending their energy, thoughts, on that which they don't want, as they understand that which exists in the higher realms of thought will exist in the lower planes of the physical, as above, so below. Without energy, matter has no meaning or consciousness. As for matter to be in motion, energy has to be placed into it. This is the beauty of life, which is so simple yet misunderstood. Everything in your life that matters only does so because you have placed your energy into it. Take away your energy, and see how quickly it no longer matters. The sage does not dwell on that which does not matter, or on that which they don't want to matter. Money, the very thing people desire most, is backed by energy. They say money is what makes the world go round, and money is a medium for energy, so this statement is true to some degree. Money is inherently the most important thing to humans, because it is the exoteric representation of energy. For where there is no energy, there is no life. How much different is the 50-pound note from the 10-pound note, or the $100 bill from the $1 bill? They are all made from the same materials, yet have different values. Why? Because they have been given different amounts of energy. If you take away the energy, they are all the same, as they are made from the same properties. It is the energy we invest in them that distinguishes them from one another. This is the power of your energy, which, if you spend wisely, can be manipulated at your own will. When you spend money, what do you get? You get change. The more you spend money, the more change you get back. You see the words that are used? This is no accident, as the systems we are living in base their laws on the principles of the universe, one of which is energy. So, whatever you spend your energy on, you will get change, and the more energy you spend on those things, the more change you get back. However, just like money, one must spend their energy wisely, as you might not get the change you want back. The sage is wise when spending their energy, but even wiser when storing it. Hence, they are faster to listen and slower to speak. The sage indulges in listening. They love it. When one is listening, they are learning. When one is speaking, they are no longer learning. For your energy is like a bank account. Every time you listen, money is being deposited, and every time you speak, money is being taken out. If one speaks more than they listen, their account will be in minus, which is unwise. The sage listens more than they do speak, so they reap the abundance of their account. How else do you think they've established so much wisdom to share? Allow everyone else to have the floor to speak, whilst you be the master of observation. Oh yes, silence is most certainly golden. To have an abundance and full control of your energy is power, just like one with money. The more a person has, the more power a person is likely to have. If one takes out an account, they have given themselves a place to secure their money, power, making it harder to lose. So how do we correlate this with our energy? If one is able to take account of what they do, they are holding their energy, power, within. The sage is able to take account of their actions, meaning they have accountability. They have the ability to take account of what they do, meaning they have full control of their power, which is energy. How unwise would it be to not take account of your actions or all that you do, as this is just an easy way to hand over your power to others. Instead, remember the ways of how your energy works. Just like you take out an account to store your money, you must take an account of what you do to store your power within. With that being said, energy is formless and takes shape only when concentrated. That is when focused, as perception is everything. It cannot be destroyed, only moved or changed in form. Use this to your advantage. Move your energy into what you want it to be concentrated in. Change your perceptions to match what is beneficial for the development of self. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. This is the science of energy. This understanding is what enables the sage to be mindful, while the unwise is mindless. When the energy of self is placed into scarcity, the experiences of the individual will also be scarce. The sage practices gratitude, for this is not only pleasant to the soul, but the experiences will be ones filled with even more gratitude. The sage indulges all their energy into acts of nobleness, the helping of others, and the development of self. This leads to the return of an abundance of energy. They do not withhold that which they should give, as this leads to poverty. Instead, they use their energy to give and receive even more. To desire a vast amount of things in the physical can be fatal to the containing of one's energy. This is where many suffer, but it is also one of the ways to become rich, by acquiring a lot. But there is another way that is not often spoken about, and that is to desire very little. The sage is one who desires very little, as this means less energy is placed on things outside of them. That which most desire is outside of oneself and usually tangible, meaning that which most desire is also fleeting. When there is little desire for that which is fleeting, then more energy is kept within, making you rich. The one who seeks happiness through desires of worldly pursuits will be in a whirlwind of chasing. This leads to an endless pit of desires, a very vicious cycle that is very harsh to the soul and draining to one's energy. Be cautious if this applies to you, for you may end up losing your essence to that which will leave you eventually. Instead, be the one who is able to observe and not absorb. This is the way of a sage, as they are able to observe all that is around them without absorbing. To absorb is to connect your energy with what is in your vicinity, or with that which you are observing. Why do you think they say attachment is the root of all suffering? Because to be attached to something means you have exchanged your energy with that which you have attached yourself to. If this attachment dissipates, you will suffer from a loss of energy. However, attachment is necessary, just like the pain before the accomplishments is necessary, for this is the way of the universe. It takes the suffering from attachments for many to see their potential to transcend this state of existence. If this is you, then joyful you must be, as many will not realize beyond this state until the ultimate form of attachment is separated. That is the soul from the body. By then, it is too late. This is one of the most difficult tasks one must face in becoming like a sage, but nothing worth having or becoming is ever easy. To become like the sage, one must master their energy. The struggle is fierce. Whoever said it was easy? For you must take into account the feelings, passions, and emotions that are part of you, which are all segments of your energy. The sage doesn't allow themselves to be controlled by these states of existence, as to do so is fatal. This results in the loss of energy to all the vices that ignite these states. Feelings, passions, and emotions, for they are great servants but poor masters indeed. You should only consider making these states be of service to you, as this makes you the controller of energy, the one who is powerful, much like the sage. Not even the craftiest of antagonists should draw these states into mastership, as this can be the fate of many. Refrain from the wasting of energy by getting into a verbal frenzy with such a person, as this is not the way of a sage. When wasting energy arguing with fools, people from a distance won't be able to tell who is who. Why waste your energy by feeling the need to say something, for that is the job of others. Most people speak because they need to say something, but the sage only speaks when they have something to say. Discernment is key, as this will be the solver of conflict. Before exerting your energy into such arguments, you must first consider whether the person stood before you is able to mentally grasp what you are about to present to them. Are they a grasper of different perspectives? Able to interpret many angles of information? If not, then prepare for your words to be no more than wasted energy, for wisdom is only accepted to the hearts of understanding. Even worse, prepare for abuse to be brought upon yourself, for the person who hates being corrected will hate you for your corrections. See, for everyone has their own internal thought programs, and for many, well, they are controlled by people outside of themselves. The internal thought programs we have determine the way we perceive reality. In other words, determine the way we utilize our energy. For many, the harsh reality is that their own thought programs are not really their own, because the minds of many have been subjugated to the manipulation of their energy. How so? Take a look for yourself and see how many people you know own popular items compared to those that own cheaper, less popular items. The internal thought programs of the former have been manipulated to desire the material, meaning their energy will be exerted into such endeavors. Many commit to actions that are predetermined, thinking that they were in control. They then suffer from regret, so one must ask, was this really their own, or do they lack self-control? Lack of self-control is a lack of energy control, which is not the way of a sage. This is why the way of a sage is to have control of the mind, control of their energy. When one is able to be in control of these things, the senses are now useful, discernment is enhanced, and actions are under one's control. Strip yourself of the pride you have, for pride comes before destruction, and too much makes the heart heavy. The sage has a heart that is as light as a feather. Only those with high amounts of pride will engage themselves in arguments in the first place. Arguments and conflict with others serve no purpose unless both parties are willing to learn. But if this were the case, it wouldn't become a conflict or argument. If pride comes before destruction, why would you want to have it? For it is only a matter of time before your energy is usurped. Instead, follow the path of virtuousness, for so much energy you will be replenished with. For the path in conjunction with evil only appears to look enticing on the surface. It even looks like it is fueling to one's energy in the short term. But such people forget to ask those that walked it what happened at the end of the path. When an electrical appliance has an earth wire connected, it prevents electrocution if a fault appears from the other wires. This is why the sage connects themselves to nature so that they are earthed. When one is earthed, they are unharmed by the energies that try to cause faults in their lives. Don't be so interested in the immediate pleasures of life, for what you are interested in, you become one with. Many search their whole lives for who they are, when they can simply find out by looking closely at what they consume and where their interests lie. This is but a good indicator of a person. Ignore what is said and watch what is done. The energy is placed in the things that are entertaining to the mind, and the root meaning of entertainment is to control the mind. If attention goes where energy flows, then let your energy flow into that which is fulfilling to the soul. For that which may seem pleasurable at first will be the cause of one's demise, and that which may seem arduous at first will be the cause of infinite fulfillment. Seek to place your energy into habits that will enhance you and not into ones that will deplete you, as this is the fate of many. The habits predetermine the habitat, and the habitat enforces the habits. The energy will only flow into an environment that is suitable for the habits one has. One cannot have the habits of the sage and be surrounded by the ungodly. The two can only work for a limited time before one has to give way. Place your energy into the environment that is conducive to the life of a sage, but more importantly, place your energy into the habits of a sage, as within, so without. Constant repetition changes behavior. This form of repetition will almost certainly be fruitful if applied. With that being said, your energy should be placed on the next step more than the goal, as it is rare to know exactly how to get there. Who knows the obstacles and challenges that await you on the path to becoming the sage? Instead, concentrate your energy on the next step and avoid being overwhelmed with the want of knowing. After all, the light shines far enough for you to see where you need to go. The light does not shine all the way to the end, but as you go further, the light will shine further. As you walk the way appears. Be a lover of walking more than the destination, for those who love walking will always walk further than those who love the destination. A life of simplicity is key for the path of the sage. When energy is placed in the constant chasing of desires, this causes mental agitation. This is unsatisfying and harbors the lives of those who want it all. How intriguing that two people can have the same amount in life, but the one who is more content is more fulfilled. If you cannot appreciate what you have now, then for sure you will not appreciate what you will have later. You will have everything you will ever need if only you can appreciate everything you have ever had. Finally, there are two ways indeed to ensure you have control over your energy. one of which is your time, for where you place your time, your energy will be bound to. Where attention goes, energy flows. Control where you spend your time and what you spend your time on, and for sure you will have control over your energy. The other is your emotions. If your emotions can be manipulated by the minds of others, then so too will your energy. To be specific, it is the response that is key. One can feel angry. However, one must control how they react to that feeling if they want to be in control of their energy. For your time and emotions are everything when dealing with your energy. If one controls their time and emotions, then one is in complete control of their energy. Chapter 4. Adversity, the Seed of Wisdom. Alchemy has the primary goal of turning base metals into gold. The true sage is an alchemist rather, as they are able to transform their pain into wisdom, the process of purification. This magical process is of high excellence, for if you master it, an alchemist you shall be. However, if you cannot handle adversity, this will be costly. What is even more costly is that you will not be able to handle growth, as this is the byproduct of adversity. One must not avoid adversity, as it can be tempting to follow the path of least resistance. This path is for sure a terrible teacher, because anything that comes easy can be lost even easier. This is not the path that is worthy of becoming like a sage, for when you work hard, you will feel more worthy of your achievements. Your credentials can never be questioned by the spectators, and even if such is the case, this matters not, as you will never have to prove yourself at that point because time will. For such spectators are like those at the bottom of a tall tree with you at the top. They can only pull you down if they can reach you. If they cannot reach you, they can throw stones at you. But if they are small, they won't have any effect, and if they are huge, they will most likely cause more harm to themselves than to you. What is the moral of the story? You have to go through the path of adversity to get to the top of the tree, but once you are there, why would you let someone who has done little work bring you down from the top? This is not the way of the sage, for the sage understands that, through their work to get there, they cannot be affected by the words of others, unless they climb down to their level. This would be dangerous, as you would be entering a territory that is more comfortable for those that oppose you. To get to the top of the tree is a mighty struggle, as is the pursuit of knowledge. Even more challenging is the application of knowledge, wisdom, as this requires constant change, and the byproduct of change is pain. For the pain of growth is like that of a video game. Each level is more challenging, but as you complete each level, you become more proficient. This is polarity. The obstacles are matched to your level of vibration. Those who are on level 20 will not receive the challenges of level 10. The levels of the game are suited to your ability, so embrace it as the sage would. Be willing to climb the ladder of growth, as it is the only way you can get to the top. Be understanding that gravity is at work when climbing the ladder, for it is something you cannot eliminate but can only accept and deal with. For gravity is like the people, situations, doubts and fears that will try to bring you down from the ladder. However, you must resist from falling. Instead, be like the ibis bird, for it is able to wade its way through substances that cause resistance in its pursuit. You too must be able to wade your way through the resistance that is in the way of your growth. For some may call those who seek this path of growth crazy, as they cannot fathom what it takes to be like the ibis bird. They only look at the sage who reached the top and are blinded by the strenuous effort it took to get there. They call it luck and downplay one's effort. The result is only spoken about, not so much the journey. They are not able to grasp the levels of commitment the sage needed to reach the top of their ladder. This is fine, as the human cannot comprehend that which they do not understand. You must still be like the sage nonetheless, and go through the pain to seek pleasure to the soul. One must shift their perspective of pain from a problem to a process, as that is all it is, a process. You can only reach the top of the mountain and have that sense of euphoria once you have gone through the pain of climbing. So much so that the man seeking a desired body physique must go through the pain of working out consistently. The roots of suffering are bitter, but the fruit they bear is ever so sweet. Polarity must be understood when going through the process of manifestation. We all seek to manifest that which is good when one needs to understand that it comes with its shadow, which must be embraced. You have to be prepared to receive the full spectrum of that which you seek, and never forget that there is polarity in everything. For the plant to grow, it has to accept that it will face the sun as well as the rain. So too must the individual who wants to become like the sage. The chaos you will be presented with on your path must be fully embraced. It is the hallway to greatness. When the chaos of adversity is embraced, for sure you will be able to find order. The adversity is there to show you where you are in your level of growth, so you must thank it dearly. How will you ever know your strength until you face the challenge of adversity? For you are only as strong as your greatest challenge. No smooth sea ever made a skilled sailor, so thank the chaos that is presented to you as it is the revelation of self, the revelation of the sage, rather. This adverse labor of discipline is the labor that will never go unrewarded, for these difficulties will be of benefit as they strengthen the mind, just as labor strengthens the body. As within, so without. After all, there is a mass of people from all corners of the world that are unhappy due to adversity. No one is free from it, and no one can escape from it. The person who is most happy is the one who is quickest to accept it, but who is the least happy? It is the person who has not yet faced it, for he who has not faced adversity is not permitted to prove himself. Adversity is the test of strength. One who has never faced it knows not their true strength. Life itself is a battle of ups and downs, and the quicker you embrace it, the more powerful you will be. The sage is the one who has gone through the downs that life has brought upon them, as this is where the pinnacles of wisdom lie. It is at these times that adversity is opening the door behind the cloud of chaos for you to go forward on your path. The sage is the one who understands that there are 0 lessons in victory and 1,000 in defeat. Adversity is such an incredible teacher, but it has no bearing on the person who doesn't apply the teachings. Only those who want to be wise will apply these teachings, for wisdom itself is the application of knowledge, and adversity is knowledge. For it may be daunting to embrace what one would describe as adversity. It may be easier to avoid the paths that bring about failure. The pride of many may not be able to withstand the implications that come with failure. Instead, we would rather avoid such a thing. But this decision is more detrimental than one could consider, for no person is great because they haven't failed. They are great because failure hasn't stopped them. The failures, the lessons, and the mistakes come with great wisdom behind them. These things can be made into the catalyst for your transformation. Refrain from hating them, but instead, be thanking them. Convert these adversities into the catalyst for your growth and prosperity. Be the alchemist and learn the ways of the sage. Thank the adversity that has been placed in front of you, for there is beauty in the struggle. Some of the most beautiful souls you will meet come from the most adverse conditions. The ones who are successful are not the ones with a ton of wealth. They are the ones who endured the struggle and embraced the qualities of the sage. One can be quick to attain wealth with little to no adversity, and will almost certainly become obnoxious, for they haven't endured the beautiful struggle. The sage welcomes adversity to advance in their development, and becomes close to perfection in character, serene indeed. The beauty of life itself is that of free will, so you will always have the choice to choose which path you are going to take. However, with each path comes a different consequence and a different type of pain, as pain cannot be avoided no matter which path you choose. Now I ask you, which pain do you prefer, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret? The pain of discipline is the path of the sage. It is the path that has a high dose of immediate pain, so much so that it cannot be withstood by most. It is the path of truth, and resembles that of a surgery. For the surgery, it produces instant pain, and can be grueling at the early stages. But when one heals, they feel better than ever. They are unaffected by that which once affected them so dearly. They are thankful they chose this option, as they are liberated and free from what once was a burden in their lives. But the pain of regret is like the deceiver, similar to the path of a lie. This is like the one who takes the painkiller instead of undergoing surgery. For the painkiller gives instant relief, a short-term fix, forcing a sense of delusion in the mind of the receiver. How devastating does this turn out to be? Very, for they will have side effects from the painkiller that last forever. They will never be free from the pain that is disturbing them. Instead, they choose the path of avoidance, which leads to the most extensive of pains, and that is the pain of regret. This is the most grueling of pains, and for that reason the sage does at once what the fool does finally. The sage utilizes the art of discipline by ensuring they build their house upon rock. For it may be incredibly challenging. However, when the storm of adversity passes, their house won't be affected due to its foundation. It is far easier to build one's house upon sand, but when the storm of adversity comes in its direction, it will never stand the test of time. The house built upon rock is the person who has built their discipline and knowledge to high levels and converted them into wisdom. They will not be as affected when the eventual storm of adversity comes their way, as they have generated the right tools of defense. The house built upon sand is the person who has decided to take the easy path, insufficient of the skills required to handle the pain of adversity. Every time the storm of adversity commences, they are unable to defend themselves, which breeds the most volatile of pains. With that being said, it is unwise to throw stones when living in a glass house. This is the most impotent of acts. One must ask themselves if they are even able to handle pain. The sage understands the process of pain, so wouldn't consider such a thing. Only the man who is frustrated with himself would have to do such a thing, as they are unsure of their capabilities. Like the sage, you must be centered and have an acute focus on the now, rather than what was or what could be. Too much focus on these things will only cause even more adversity, which could be too much to bear. On top of one's foundations being built upon a rock, be in control of the present and what you do in the present for the path to open up. One step at a time instead of trying to climb 10 steps at once. It can be tempting to do so, but the focus then becomes scattered, and the energy is not directed into what is most important, the now. Less focus on that which is outside of one's spectrum of control, and even less focus on that which is of no matter. The focus on these two things brings about unnecessary adversity. There is a type of adversity that is necessary for development, and then there is one that can cause unnecessary turbulence. The latter weakens one's ability to handle the adversity that really matters. There shouldn't be an emphasized focus on that which you cannot control and that which does not matter. Indeed, there should be an emphasized focus on that which you can control and that which matters. The tendency to try to control everything can be the cause of one's downfall. This in itself creates adversity. Grass doesn't grow faster if you pull it. Nature is never in a hurry, yet everything is accomplished. The tendency to rush in the process of becoming like the sage is very tempting for many. However, most things that come quick and easy are rarely appreciated. The quickest of successes precedes the quickest of losses. The ones who have endured the most setbacks are the ones who become the most appreciative for that which they obtain. Complacency awaits the person who has not endured enough adversity and instead has encountered quick success. Be patient, for even the ones before us had to endure adversity for us to be born. Time in itself is a construct that is circular. Many mistake time to be in a linear-like fashion. The sage quickly grasps the circular motion of time, meaning they will inevitably face adversity for as long as they exist in the realm of time. Our experiences are right there in our faces, showing us that time is circular as we experience the same lessons over and over until one learns the lesson. Much like a game, for the person has to repeat a level as many times as it takes to complete it. This is how time works. You have to be able to make this distinction of time to have an advantage over adversity. But it can easily go over one's mind because, although the adversities come from the same origin, they come in different forms. The origin could be the inability to control one's anger, but the adversities vary with each experience. One could be from the loss of a job, and the other could be from the confrontation with another person. Different experiences, but both to test one's inability to control their anger. As the sage realizes the motion that time travels, they adapt their ability to interpret the situations that life presents, giving them an advantage. The lessons can be overcome because the sage understands how adversity works. Better still, they don't become complacent, as they also understand that the lesson doesn't end once they learn the wisdom that each form of adversity brings. The adversity evolves just like the sage evolves in their wisdom. The adversity evolves to the level at which the individual evolves, just like in a game. The game gets harder as you progress and get better, so to the lessons of adversity, yet still overnight success takes years of hard work. This is the perception of all those that spectate. Unlikely the years of work will ever be mentioned when one has reached success. Only the successes will be mentioned, not so much the journey of adversity that one has endured. Just like the tree that bears fruit becomes only of use when the fruit has arrived, but one never questions if it had gone through grief to deliver the fruit we desired. Quite an interesting concept one must consider if they plan to be like the sage. You must quickly realize that a gem cannot be polished without friction. One's perfection comes from the facing of trials, and in its absence they'll be aimlessly wandering. One's perfection does not come from retaliation, as the best revenge is none. Better yet, the best revenge is to heal and move on, as adversity awaits us all. Refrain from being the causer of adversity, and instead prepare yourself to face yours instead. Don't become like those who hurt us, for this is not the way of the sage. All this will do is make the heart heavy, too heavy to be a person of nobleness and virtue indeed. This creates a crooked heart and a clouded mind. In all that has been said, it is of great virtue to be grateful for the struggles, as this was the backbone of those before us. One must be grateful for adversity, as it is the seed of wisdom. Many remain unthankful, and refuse to learn the lessons of adversity, for if you have surpassed this phase, then grateful you must be. I ask, how can you be open to the seed of wisdom if you are not grateful for the adversities that are brought upon you? The art of calmness and composure is often questioned or even belittled by those of less understanding. But this is the way of the sage. This is the way of wisdom. The sage is in the default state of calm and tranquility. One must exercise this way of being, and a sage you will certainly become. And with that being said, be kind, for everyone you meet is facing a tough battle.